No, no, I can't take it anymore. Why do they do this? Howdy folks, and welcome to this retrospective on Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Released on August 23rd of 2016, a whopping 9 years ago, Mankind Divided continues the story of Adam Jensen, our beloved ex-SWAT, ex-cop, and ex-security head turned cybernetic badass, following his quest to discover the secrets of the Illuminati. Alright, maybe I should back up just a little bit. Human Revolution, the predecessor to Mankind Divided, is one of my favorite games of all time. I was excited to see how the writers expanded on the universe they expertly depicted, but there was a caveat. Before starting Mankind Divided, I knew there wasn't a third game, which made playing it a two-edged sword. Even worse than not knowing if there would be a continuation of the narrative, it was officially reported that the third iteration was straight up cancelled after 2 years in development. This was baffling, since Cyberpunk 2077, a game with similar motifs and themes, had done so well, and I assumed that would have been a signal to the corpo overlords that there was a demand for these types of games. But sadly, I scream into my Jensen pillow each night. What, you don't have one? Regardless, there is a lot to cover within Mankind Divided that blew me away, and some things that made me scratch my head. You can feel the ambition, the world building, the polish that the developers put in, but all of that wraps up mid-sentence. It's a game full of brilliance and unresolved stories. I wanted to love this game as much as I did Human Revolution, and at times I did. Then there were moments or interactions that I questioned how I was going to write the script. I didn't even know what I truly thought about the game until the very, very end. To figure out what went right and wrong, we'll be going through the whole game, critically looking at gameplay mechanics, visual aesthetics, sound design, side quests, and of course, the main story, to get a better picture of what Mankind delivers. As I mentioned before, Mankind Divided is the sequel to Human Revolution, which itself ends on a cliffhanger. If you want the full story, that retrospective is linked down below, but I'll give a brief summary that does include spoilers for the first game and are integral to the story we're about to experience. Augmented technology is evolving rapidly, leading to many societal advancements but also sparking political unrest, ethical debates, and corporate power grabs. Adam Jensen, head of security for Seraph Industries at the time, is critically injured during a terrorist attack while defending the facility and didn't ask for his body to be rebuilt with special augmentations, making him a pseudo-super soldier. Jensen's ex-girlfriend, Megan Reed, is taken during the attack along with other scientists, and Adam goes around the world trying to find them. Following the breadcrumbs, Jensen discovers ties between the attack, a global conspiracy, and a secretive organization manipulating augmented research for their control. It all culminates at Panchaea, where Hugh Darrow, the scientist that first created augmentation, has decided to go full wacko mode and release a signal that induces psychosis and rage for any augmented person that downloaded the newest update, trying to show humanity that augmentations are actually bad for society. Even though Jensen deactivates the signal and can choose between 4 endings, the damage is done, and the chaos Darrow has perpetrated is known as the Aug Incident. We then jump 2 years into the future, and it is a very different world than when we first left it. This is where Mankind Divided begins.
I once thought I could save the world. Now look at it.
The exposition is a bit on the nose with Eliza Kassan, the AI news anchor, but the player knows from the first game that the Picus network uses their influence to sway public opinion, and it really seems like shit hit the fan regardless of the spin.
Details recovered from the black box recorder suggest that the man may have been suffering flashbacks to the Aug incident. That horrible day 2 years ago when augmented people all over the world flew into a psychotic killing spree.
Adam Jensen is one of my favorite characters in gaming, and for all the horror and conspiracies he's personally witnessed, I'm glad that he still has a sense of humor.
Not gonna go all wonky on us now, Hansa, are ya?
Well, if I do, McCready, I guarantee you'll never see it coming.
We get the lowdown for our mission, finding some arms dealer in Dubai who's selling military-grade augments to terrorists and is an ex-Bell Tower commander, which, having to deal with that PMC group in the last game, they're trouble. Mankind Divided does a decent job at dialogue exposition, whether it's Miller saying that Jensen is the only augmented person on the team, or how Jensen casually mentions we're agents of Interpol. I like how it's not spoon-fed to the player. MacCready, another team member, even describes the site that we'll be operating in. An unfinished hotel off the coast of Dubai where heavily augmented construction workers wreaked havoc during the AUG incident. You don't need to see the carnage for your imagination to run wild. Jensen gets to choose lethal or non-lethal before touching down. I went with a long-range combat rifle, just in case. Miller, our commander, also informs us that a major sandstorm is approaching, giving us little time to operate. He also mentions that the intel we've received was very last minute, which comes back up later. The aesthetics in this game are beautiful. There was a real vision from the art director, and it adds on to what we saw in Human Revolution. Plus, you get to see the sandstorm creeping closer, which I thought was a neat touch. We start making our way into the hotel, and I enjoyed the fact that Jensen had his powers intact from the first game. Heavy lifting, Icarus wings, punching walls. It made it feel like he had progressed in the last 2 years rather than randomly not having any abilities. This part also functions as an in-game tutorial. Levels that can blend learning mechanics while also advancing the story help with the pacing and the world building. Jensen pulls off his signature stealth gameplay, but now with a Gears of War cover movement system, which honestly was useful most times. There's also a newspaper lying around talking about violence against augmented people around the world ramping up, and a billionaire mogul named Nathaniel Brown who wants to make some 3D printed city called Rabia, built specifically for the augmented populace. The interior level design here and throughout the game blew me away. There were so many small details that shine, and if you've watched my channel before, you know the phrase, "it makes it feel like a lived-in world." I don't remember what game engine they built this on, but I would have loved to have seen the next iteration of it. Someday. Where's my Jensen pillow? We finally make it to the seller's location, and we have enemy helicopters inbound. The team is set up for the ambush, but just like everything else that's happened in the previous game, nothing goes to plan.
Show me the cash, quick, and we'll...
What the?
By who? What's going on down there?
Miller, this isn't the Jinn. Repeat, it's not the Jinn.
Some unknown group with augments like ours surprise attack the deal, and we have to disable the chopper before they get away with everything. With the sandstorm having arrived, being able to use our cybernetic eyes to see through the obstruction and stealth our way around the enemies was fantastic. I wouldn't describe Mankind Divided as more cinematic than Human Revolution, but you can tell the production value was upgraded. We fade into the starting credits, which effectively convey what's happened. Again. I don't know if it was just me, but the pacing in Mankind Divided gets muddled slightly by what I think is the developers trying to bring up to speed players that didn't play Human Revolution. We already got Eliza telling us that the AUG incident has caused huge amounts of vitriol and bigotry to that population, and I guess these credits expand on the specifics, like how the Czech Republic is trying to relocate augmented folk, but it's not the last time I have a gripe with this game's pacing. And regardless, the visuals elevate the world building tenfold.
You didn't think it would end with the AUG incident, did you?
The next cutscene has members of the Illuminati discussing the events in Dubai, how all their operators were killed and they were losing control over the global narrative because of a schism in society after the AUG incident. One of its members talks about going to New York to see if they have enough votes for something called the Human Restoration Act, and the other members kindly lay out most of their plan, something about a sleeper cell unit being activated, but also their concerns over Janus, who is affiliated with something called the Juggernaut Collective. Holy exposition, Batman.
Everything is in place. We can initiate whenever you wish.
Secure your communications, Bob. Jaina seems to have eyes everywhere these days. He and his Juggernaut Collective...
Janus won't be an issue. I've made arrangements. I laid the foundations. Now it is time to get everyone's attention.
The members log out of their Zoom meeting, and we jump to a week later with Jensen arriving in Praha, or Prague. Papers in order, civilian checkpoints, displacement of a certain group of people. I think Europe has seen this one before. The graphics blew me away at every turn. Whether it was the state police's armor, the environmental design, or the lighting, it's wild this game was made in 2016. Jensen secretively makes contact with Vega, who works for the Juggernaut Collective. I guess that's why they had the Illuminati members blatantly talk about them. It seems like Jensen and her have worked together on the down low, which I could understand why since Adam doesn't trust government agencies.
Any idea who hit us?
Well, I'm sure your task force will come up with something, and that it won't be what the Juggernaut Collective digs up.
Vega already throws fuel on the fire, saying that Jensen's strike team was not the only one available for the job, even though that's what Miller, the commander, told them. She continues, dropping the line that the strike forces are under control of the Illuminati, and neither she nor Jensen understands why they would have sent them if they also scheduled the ambush. Maybe they wanted them to witness the deal. The conversation continues about how bad things have gotten in Praha, and even though Jensen understands the plight of augmented people and their otherness, he knows that he has to take down the Illuminati rather than chase after things they perpetrate. Vega is also interested about who gave the actual order for the strike team to go to Dubai, and after Jensen discloses that it was Miller, she gives Jensen a whisper chip, some sort of listening device which can be used with the deeply encrypted communication system Miller and Interpol use. But their conversation is cut short by multiple explosions within the train station, which caught me off guard. Maybe I'm getting old, but seeing terrorist acts depicted in video games makes me uncomfortable, and the developers do a chilling job at showing the devastation that they bring.
Stand back, let me help.
We get another time jump 30 hours after the bombing, and even though the game is trying to set everything up quickly, Mankind Divided felt much more like a detective noir thriller than Human Revolution, which I liked, it's just a slow build-up. Jensen realizes that the blast has screwed up his systems, losing all the cool powers we had at the beginning. Well, we had to start somewhere. The perspective of Adam waking up and seeing his body fully augmented was interesting, since he usually tries to cover up his otherness with the large duster and other clothing. Another neat detail is having the HUD display glitches, like the ammo count being skewed. Going around the apartment had a lot of environmental storytelling. If you remember from Jensen's Detroit apartment, he likes clocks, and I chuckled that not only is he tinkering with them, he's also building a gaming PC. Nice. We hear a voicemail from David Seraph, Jensen's old employer, who the two haven't spoken since Panchaea, but something was off. Oh yeah, they changed the voice actor for him, and it's terrible.
Look, son, whatever reasons you've had for not getting in touch these last 2 years, well, life's too short. I'm leaving for London soon, but give me a call.
I try not to bash performances that much, but not having the iconic Stefan Schellen voice threw me off, and it gets worse.
What do I want? Jeez, Adam! I know I did some questionable things in the past, but a lot's happened in the last 2 years. To both of us.
Seraph gives more information about the last 2 years, how he was rescued from Panchaea, but in recovery, Seraph Industries folded. He also mentions that Tai Young Medical, the corporation we investigated in Human Revolution, took every IP and copyright Seraph Industries had. It made me think how futile our actions were in the grand scheme of things. The player can ask David about Megan Reed and Pritchard, which I thought was nice since we never got their conclusions. But the real meat of the conversation is about Seraph meeting with Nathaniel Brown, the guy who wants to build that utopian city for Augs, but also help build the ghetto for them outside of Prague. Even though Seraph has first-hand experience with for the greater good ideas backfiring, His ambitions do not stop him from trying to pursue these types of ventures.
Why are you meeting with them?
Brown's got big plans. He wants to focus on real solutions, ideas that look to the future. You've heard of the Safe Harbor Initiative?
I've heard of Rabia, the walled city he and his company are building in the desert for Augs.
Rabia's just a part of it. We're talking about self-sustaining, energy-efficient arcologies that can be replicated anywhere on Earth. Cities built by the augmented, for the augmented.
Where the dream of self-controlled human evolution lives on.
It may not seem like it right now, son, but one day, people will move on from the incident, and when that happens, we'll be ready for it.
We leave the apartment and call our technician, Kohler, who sounds like he has a situation of his own that we might be able to help with. So we head his way. Walking around the city was breathtaking and daunting. Whether it was the police security drones scanning people's faces to the absolutely militarized state police, there was always something to investigate or marvel at. Getting to Kohler's entrance, we're stopped by one of the Dvali gang, and I could not figure out how to get into this compound another way. I searched, I want to say, for 30 minutes and finally decided to go through the front door. Even though it wasn't stealthy at all, I give people so much credit for completing this game as a ghost. I did like the shooting gameplay and using cover to my advantage. After murdering 15 gang members, whoopsies, I hope Interpol doesn't know about this, I was again blown away by the interior to the library that Kohler has as a front. The details were staggering, the beautiful lighting fixture, having different sections for the books, or even having legible books themselves made it all feel tangible, and this feeling continues when entering the actual workshop. It was creepy seeing all these augmented limbs just hanging from the ceiling, and it's not the last time we'll see that motif. Kohler explains to Jensen that he does jobs for the Dvali gang, but he and the leader had a small misunderstanding. Jensen retorts that there's never a small misunderstanding with people like the Dvalis, but quickly asks Kohler to check his systems since everything got screwed up during the bombing. And things don't go as planned. I kind of like that no matter what the objective is for the quest, they always throw you a curveball.
What?
Oh, thank God. Take it easy. I swear I didn't mean to. Your retinal display should be back soon. You can still move, right?
Where did you...
I was trying to connect the unconnected. But you got some strange fucking Augs back there. I probably shouldn't have. Here, let me get you some water.
During the procedure to recalibrate Jensen's systems, Kohler discovers experimental augmentations that we had no idea we had. Not only on a narrative level is this frickin' sweet, but these new augmentations later in the game can play an important role on how you want to go about playing the game. It was a great idea from the development team to add these new powers, but with limitations at the start, since Kohler tells us that if we use multiples at once, we'll melt down, like reactor meltdown. Kohler also mentions that the new augments are so out of his league they could be from Mars. I'm pretty sure they're not from Mars. But he really has no idea where they came from, and put down another mystery to solve in the book. Jensen does mention that Seraph rebuilt him, but Kohler interjects saying that the new pieces don't look like the same ones that Seraph built with us, saying they use technologies and chemical compounds he wouldn't even have thought to use. He also mentions that the newly discovered augments seem to have been done recently, like in the last 2 years, and hastily.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking how much I hate being unconscious.
This line from Jensen is short, but I really feel for Adam not having any say over his own body. Even though he is one of the toughest characters I know of, the psychological impact of not having autonomy is devastating. Jensen also mentions how he got out of Panchaea. He was rescued floating in the ocean and then brought to some medical facility in Alaska to recover, and get this, the more he tries to remember those months, the foggier it becomes. One of the best things about Mankind Divided is allowing the player to do or not do the side content. You could easily just beeline for the main quest, but with all the questions from Human Revolution and now these experimental Augs, we demand answers. Back at Jensen's apartment, we call Seraph to confront him about our recent findings, and he convincingly denies any involvement, but also is intrigued about what the augments are.
Adam, you know the decisions I made for you 2 years ago.
Yes or no?
No! All the work we did on you was above board. You have my word on that. What exactly did you find?
Seraph does mention that he saw one of the experimental augments through a DoD contractor 3 years ago, but it was just a concept at the time. He also adds that the scientist that interviewed for Seraph Industries of Vadim Orlov was the one who made the concept, but he was not hired. Seraph agrees to help us track down Orlov and we head out. Before continuing to the next breadcrumb, I had to stop and listen to these augmented preachers. Mankind Divided does an excellent job at depicting a broken society. On one hand, you have the anti-Aug coalition that wants to send anyone with a mechanical arm to a gulag, some in the middle, and the other hand trying to have Augs rise up and become a singular force. Jensen is in the middle. Again, he never asked to become augmented, and does work for the government agency that is now fearful of people like himself. And he also knows that the Aug incident was man-made, not an act of destructive evolution. It takes a strong-willed individual to be subjugated to bigotry on a daily basis and not go Super Saiyan on the perpetrators. Speaking of being subjugated to bigotry, I think the game went a little bit overboard being stopped by the state police trying to use the metro. Maybe if this was used 3 or 4 times throughout the game, and in other places where they asked you for papers, I wouldn't have thought about it. Yet, almost every time we have to go into this cutscene where some random officer asks for our papers, it's unskippable. It might seem like a small annoyance, but Mankind Divided had these random pacing problems throughout its gameplay. It's not like this is a hidden loading screen either, since you can go through the metro and not be stopped and then get an actual loading screen. I think they were trying to convey or reinforce the idea that you are different, and keeping up with the environmental details like a line for quote-unquote naturals and a line for Augs. But when you get stopped for like the billionth time, it just got tedious. Did anyone else feel like that? Our next stop is T-29 Interpol headquarters, conveniently concealed by a storefront, which I found odd as well since Interpol is a European agency. Why do they have to hide their location? I did love the entrance to the facility. This is much cooler than Detroit's police precinct.
You're heading into TF-29 already?
Our enemies aren't waiting around while we lick our wounds.
Fair enough. There'll be a data port on the NSN's motherboard. Access it and then just plug and play. Or plug and record in this case.
Got it. I'll let you know when it's done.
If you forgot about one of our main objectives, don't feel bad. I went, huh? When Vega mentions the Whisper chip, and then went, oh yeah, that thing. I don't know if the developers could intentionally evoke certain emotions, but the thought of bugging our superior security network to spy on him made me feel like I was cheating on a test or something. Apprehension be thy name. The interior is another slam dunk in the design department. Like folks, I hope it comes out on YouTube as good as it did on my monitor. But this is the type of realism and aesthetic design that works perfectly. There's a longevity to the art. We use our iconic air ducts to access the NSN server and apply the Whisper chip while Miller is using the device.
Weird, it's already picking up a freak. Jesus, Adam, is Miller in there right now?
Shit, gotta go.
Miller says he needs to see us immediately and we head into his office. Yeah, we were just hanging around, nothing suspicious. Jensen is informed that the state police are taking control of the investigation of the train bombing to Miller's chagrin. He wants us to go over there and try to talk the Stadies out of their choice, and not to think about Dubai, since McCready is handling it. Apparently one of our forensic team members was already at the train site, but might have been detained, since he hasn't checked in. We get a bit more detail on how state police are trying to take over the investigation. Apparently there was some UN mandate that allowed Interpol to take over any terrorist investigation in Europe, but the head of the state police is using a loophole, deeming the attack was domestic, and the group ARC, Augmented Rights Coalition, comes up. Isn't coalition spelled with a C? Never mind. Before leaving the conversation, Miller says we need to see a psychologist before getting back into the field, and my first thought was, yeah, Adam probably needs to get some stuff off his chest. but his character isn't too happy with the idea.
Technically, you're supposed to speak to our psychologist before getting back into action.
I don't need a shrink.
Luckily for Jensen, she's not in her office, and Miller doesn't want to wait on the investigation, so we head to the train station. Immediately getting off the metro, we find our technician, Smiley. Smiley tells Jensen that state police have accused him of tampering with evidence and kicked him out of our crime scene, the bastards. He also tells us there was a piece of evidence he needs to blow this whole thing open, which is some advanced scan of the blast zone.
Actually, it's a good thing that you're here. I don't suppose you could Jensen your way in there and grab it for me?
I cracked up laughing when Smiley uses Jensen as a verb to stealthily infiltrate a restricted place. So we Jensen our way in, pick up the DSD, Jensen our way out of there while taking out some of the guards silently. I love the animation for some of the takedowns, especially when they used objects within the environment. Here, Jensen takes out a guard and then whips them behind cover, so if there was another officer coming by, the body would be sort of hidden. There are other points where he'll use their head on a hard surface or something similar, which made me feel even more powerful. Back at Interpol, Vega calls us about the Whisper chip and how they've struck gold, and to meet her at an abandoned limb clinic. If you remember from the first game, limb clinics were doctors for augmented people and gave out neurazepine, the drug that helped people deal with the side effects of augmentation. Now with the public backlash on augmented people, the limb clinics have closed, making it harder for augs to get the medication they need to live, and presumably why Jensen goes to Kohler, who is underground. It's pretty messed up, even if the limb clinics were the base for implementing the firmware responsible for the AUG incident. Before giving Smiley the evidence, we stop into the shrink's office, who wants to conduct a pre-field evaluation on us.
Probably getting this from everyone today, but I need to ask. Are you okay?
Jensen discloses a lot of backstory even though he never takes a seat, stuff about Panchaea, his body not rejecting augments, and sort of gives us a canon ending to Human Revolution. I was a bit disappointed having the complete save file for Human Revolution, but not having it have an effect, but it's not the biggest deal. Even though the shrink was nice, she uses the word fulcrum when talking about Panchaea, which made me think of Eliza doing the same when Adam had to choose the ending in the last game. I don't know, maybe it's just a smart person word. We answer one more question about personal interest in the case, saying that no matter if it was the Augmented Rights Coalition or Naturals that caused the bombing, that we're a cop and we investigate and convict whoever did it regardless of affiliation. The shrink gives us the green light for fieldwork, and hell yeah, that was the best therapy session I've ever had.
I'll let the director know that I'm officially clearing you for the field.
Well, it's probably best if I get back to work, Doc. I'll see you around.
Back with Smiley, Jensen is told that Miller has departed for some unknown location, but didn't question him where. He also hasn't had time to go through the evidence, so we have time for a side quest. Trying to leave our offices, Jensen is stopped by another Interpol agent who seems a bit anxious. Agent Chang is worried that Interpol might be the next target because he's been seeing some strangers go past the storefront, apparently documenting who's coming in and out. Also, the fact that the storefront used by us as a front got hacked recently, so someone or some entity is trying to find us. We agree to help him find the origin of the hack and pointed in the direction of an apartment. We Jensen our way in, God I love that phrase, and find a computer with a pretty noticeable symbol as its icon. I think this is a good time to talk about the hacking in this game, which I wasn't a big fan of. I love the concept of putting Praxis points into hacking and discovering secrets or more lore in-game, but the actual minigame itself left a lot to be desired. The hacking in Human Revolution was easy in terms of understanding what was going on. In Mankind Divided, I kind of was lost about what I should be doing. It also doesn't help they try to make it harder by slowing the camera movement down and for higher security levels making the pathway have a fog of war. I'm not saying there shouldn't be a hacking minigame, but if I'm doing this like every 2 minutes, I would have liked it to be a little bit more streamlined. We read the emails from what seems to be a journalist who is part of something called Samizdat. Sorry for butchering that pronunciation, but I do really have to hand it to the writers for their nuance with this quest line. Jensen contacts a person named K on the hacked computer, and gets them to divulge where they're headquartered. On the way over to their underground site, Chang tells us that Samizdat is some sort of conspiracy newspaper, which makes the moon-based article they're trying to write a bit more understandable. Now, I said there was nuance in this quest because not everything they write about is conspiratorial. Even though they want to publish the story about a possible moon base, they also know about Dubai, and then I questioned if there was really a moon base with clones on it. Anyways, we talk with the head journalist who knows that the storefront is a front, god damn it, for something bigger, and Jensen, even being down here talking to him about it, confirms it. Jensen also tries to convince him that whatever is down in the basement, not a highly technological Interpol facility, is trying to help fry bigger fish. Well, that pushes the conspiracy even more.
I'm supposed to believe we're colleagues now? You men in black types, you walk into Pike's newsroom, tell them to be hush-hush about something, and they do it. But that's not how it works here. One day, you will all be exposed. If not by me, then someone just like me. Samizdat isn't one voice. K isn't one man.
It's a slippery slope conspiracies lead to, because even one nugget of truth in a pile of shit can cause someone to start questioning everything. It doesn't help that the information within the game or in real life is also heavily managed and packaged, but that's for individuals to decide on their own. Jensen tries to strike a deal with the guy who claims he's the editor as well, and depending on how good the deal is, the story could be shelved indefinitely. Here I was kind of annoyed we couldn't just divulge what we knew from the first game. The editor wants dirt on the Picus news network, and I kid you not, Jensen does not mention a single thing about Eliza Kassan being an AI manipulated by the Illuminati. I know we don't have evidence to support that, but not even being able to talk about it felt like a letdown. Both characters agree that what Picus does is bad, but this also leads to the bank heist, which I'm all about. We have to get actual evidence of Picus's practices, which are held in the Palisade, some high-security bank for rich corporations and individuals with lots of secrets they don't want out. Sneaking into the bank was awesome, not just for the visuals, which again are fantastic, but just the gameplay of stealth. You could go guns blazing, but you'd be dead in seconds since the security robots and guards are all packing. Even though the guards have distinct pathing, I enjoyed that because it made it feel like a puzzle, rather than some sort of random chaos I felt like while playing Dishonored. Jensen reaches the office and after rummaging around for 10 minutes, finds a drinking water analysis that would turn some heads if released. There was some chemical spill that got into the city's water supply, and even though the report says do not use the city's water supply to even bathe or do dishes, Picus News doesn't want to run the story since, quote, the only thing worse than a sick population is a hysterical one. Like, goddamn folks, that's fucked up, and it's not like it only affects Augs either. Everyone needs water, and at least if people knew about it, they would be able to find other methods, and the cleaning process would hopefully start. Obfuscating the spill neither brings accountability to the corruption that caused it, nor gives the citizens safety, but everyone at Picus knows about it and can make their own arrangements. Even though I found this a little bit less striking than Eliza being a super AI computer controlled by the Illuminati, it was still enough evidence to satiate Samizdat. But we're not completely done since they need to publish the expose and need our help doing it by hacking into the city's mainframe or whatever and displaying Samizdat everywhere. Even though I'm sure this breaks every rule in the Interpol book, I was interested to see what happened and I was not disappointed. With that side quest completed, we head over to the abandoned limb clinic to meet up with Vega, who is also augmented to the nines. These moments between Adam and Vega are poignant and well done. She reminisces on when Praha welcomed Augs and even incentivized them to relocate. Now seeing the city turn against them and even send them to this gulag we've been hearing about, you can hear the pain in her voice.
It used to welcome people like us. Go out of its way to entice Augs to live here. This clinic was built because Prague saw us as its future. Now, look at it.
Times change, Alex.
I know, trust me, even got the scars to prove it.
We also get some backstory on her, how she once worked for Bell Tower as a pilot in Panama, but discovered something she shouldn't have. Holy shit, talk about conspiracies. Was it the Panama Papers? Like, that has to be a reference, right? Anyway, she also mentions Janus, the secretive leader of the Juggernaut Collective, and Jensen has mentioned wanting to meet the person since he probably thinks it will lead to his answers. Vega gives us the whispered chip audio log, which contains Miller talking to some unknown superior. Whoever that person is, they're trying to push the narrative that ARC are the ones behind the attack in Dubai and a break-in at VersaLife. Miller on the tape doesn't sound happy with his marching orders, and even says ARC doesn't operate in North America, which I'm assuming that's where the VersaLife break-in occurred. I was glad that we had the dialogue option to disagree with Vega, thinking Miller is compromised, and then we get the name of Miller's superior, Manderley, who was brought up in the last game, and thank you to the commenters that explained that he's from the original game. Obviously, Manderley has something to do with the whole collective power struggle and is the head of Interpol. If he survived past the events of this game, he probably is a villain, or that's my guess. We get some more information about the so-called break-in. It seems like there's no record of an actual break-in, and Jensen thinks it might have to do with their R&D division. Something they might have been experimenting with that, if stolen, could make ARC look even more worse. I want to interject for a second to say thank you to the people watching at this point. Out of all my retrospectives, even Human Revolution, the content of this story is dense, and I hope that I'm keeping your interest, because the game goes from like 10 to 40 to 100. It really just takes a lot of time to develop. We leave Vega saying that we're going to solve the train bombing case and that she'll get back to us about VersaLife. But without a second of downtime, Miller calls us saying we're needed in Golem City, the gulag or relocation center for AUGs. The helipad is behind some creepy puppet shop, and who are we kidding? Why do we need another storefront when it's a freaking government helicopter flying out of an apartment complex? I'm pretty sure the neighbors will notice. I did have to stop and admire the texture work here. This plane is so well made and the lighting effects are a chef's kiss. It's details like these that made me love these games, the mix of the new technology and the remnants of the old. Another great detail was the ability to listen to Miller's conversation that he's having on the phone. I eavesdropped because I thought it would give insight on whether he was crooked or not, but it takes a somber tone.
I can't just take time off. I know that, but there's got to be another way. Another doctor she can see.
It sounds like his daughter is sick, but he also fears that someone is going to go behind his back. Even though a lot of fingers are pointing at Miller, it felt like too much of a setup for him to be one of the conspirators, but we'll see. Miller deflects our question about his phone call and continues with why we're headed to Golem City. Apparently, state police dropped off footage showing an AUG placing bomb bags throughout the train station, and even though there was no facial recognition, the bags are the same type that are used by Rucker and ARC. I guess Rucker is their leader.
But the bags are the same ones used by Talus Rucker and his aid workers in the Utalek Complex.
That's a stretch.
I don't know why I love the helicopters in this game so much. Maybe it reminds me of a high-tech vertibird from Fallout, but they're so sleek and fine-looking. We meet Chicane, our pilot, and Miller explains that our task is to take Rucker in for questioning, regardless if he had anything to do with the bombings, and not just the one in the train station. I wasn't expecting a lot of information, but what both Chicane and Miller divulge is pretty damning, especially after completing the Samizdat quest. They tell Jensen that Rucker didn't get forced into Golem City, rather he blackmailed his way in. Something about having information about a humanitarian travesty that the Security Council of the UN didn't want published. It's again moments like these that make the player really think about the world Jensen is inhabiting. Whether you agree with Rucker or not, what's the difference between Picus not disclosing the chemical water incident and him not showing the world the truth about whatever he had information on? I get that both entities use it as leverage to get something they want, but damn, it's just brutally messed up. The power brokers don't suffer, the people do. Then says we'll have a contact once we enter the city, some dude named Tabor, who should be able to get us past ARC checkpoints. You do get a chance to question Miller about if he thinks ARC was behind Dubai, which he also deflects, only saying that we need to find evidence to exonerate them. Miller leaves and the two have a quick dialogue about Jensen's augments and Chicane's lack of augments, even when he has a torn up leg.
Maybe you should reconsider. What with that limp?
No, I like my limp. Keeps me honest.
It's an interesting duality between the two and a subtle way of discussing what makes us human. Chicane says he likes his limp even though he could augment it to be better, but he doesn't want to change his body. While Jensen is more augment than flesh at this point, but does either of those things make them different from each other? What do you think? With a lot more information under our belt, Chicane and Jensen head out and we get this pretty spectacular scene flying into the city. Just the scale of the complex is staggering, and thinking that so many people are relocated here not by their own free will made me feel helpless. As Jensen, we've done so much, yet that realization that we can't help everyone was daunting and emotional. Visually, this place is one of the coolest environments I've seen in gaming. There was so much to look at and interact with that at times it felt overwhelming, but in an intentional way. Take for example the wires protruding out of every wall, interlocking overhead. The oppression was tangible. We get to the apartment Miller gave us, but our contact isn't there. So we talk with Tibor's brother's wife, who informs us that state police have taken both brothers into holding cells in something called the Narrows, which sounds ominous. Luckily, the state police are inept when it comes to fortifying their positions, and we easily stealth our way past the checkpoint, since Chicane tells us our Interpol ID won't have any weight in the city. We find Tibor in one of the holding cells, but his brother hasn't been so lucky and is currently getting interrogated. This is a damning conversation for the state of this world, since Tibor refuses our help, saying that if the state police know of him and his family, even if they were to break him out of the holding cell and free his brother, they would just go back in again.
And then what? They go back to my housing unit and take me again?
And what if you're not there?
No, no. Please, that will just make it worse. They know who I am. They went after my family.
Jensen says Interpol would be able to bring them to safety, but the way Praha is right now, I get where Tibor is coming from, saying that there is no place that is safe for them, even if Jensen says Interpol would take them in. Tibor does mention a smuggler in the area that could help us get into the G.A.R.M complex, but we'll also need a key card that some cop has for access. Even though Tibor has divulged everything we need, he does plead with us to help his brother, and I thought it would be the best thing to do. Seeing the interrogation happening was brutal. I'd imagine getting punched by a full suit of armor doesn't feel great, and it looks like it's been happening for a while. We use one of our experimental augmentations, invisibility, to slip down and throat punch this fuck, which felt very satisfying. Before untying the brother, he asked us to deal with the rest of the cops, and I thought, no big deal, until I saw the goddamn exosuit walking around. I don't know if there was a way to stealthily deal with these guys, and if so, please let me know down in the comments. I resorted to some not-so-smooth methods, which I found broke my immersion the most. Like if I'm shooting an exosuit with a revolver and the alarms are going haywire, I'd assume the whole militia would be on us, but it's really just 3 cops and like no one else runs down. With the cops out of the way, we talk with the brother, who also has some interesting dialogue about his connections with ARC and the consequences. He does give us the code phrase and thanks us for freeing him, but like what his brother was saying about them being on a list, I don't know how much freedom he'll have once out. The next stop is the smuggler Tibor mentioned, who looks like he's about to drop the sickest beat. We strike a deal that if we get back some shipment that was taken by the police, he'll get us into ARC undetected. I was thinking this would be a little bit more difficult, but the only hard part was actually finding the shipment inside the area. It's not the last time I would have liked some sort of Witcher sense. With the shipment back with the smuggler, we gain access to the ARC territory and get this cutscene where we meet Victor.
I got it, brothers. Now, let's see what we've got here. These little guys can be tricky. Every once in a while, one of them will go off, even if you...
Should have tried cutting the blue wire.
If only life was that simple. You are lost, brother?
Now, it's not like showing Shodan on the cover of System Shock 2 while also having it be a plot twist that she's in the game, but I remembered Victor is on the Steam cover, which made me instantly think this was a bigger character than first meets the eye. Victor is heavily augmented with some cool vision add-ons. and is also well read, making references to himself as Cerberus, the guardian of hell. The conversation continues with the two speaking in pseudo-metaphors about Ark, Rutger, and the fate of Augs. I really think the writers did a great job in making each character distinct and also having true motivations for their actions, even though we don't know much about Victor yet.
No amount of fleshy hardware is going to keep you alive. You will end up spare parts in some harvester yard, meat on a butcher block.
But not you. You're gonna go down swinging. Take them all with you.
We won't be the ones who fall, brother.
What you're talking about, that's terrorism.
Is it? I thought we were just two men having a conversation, discussing the issues of the day.
One thing I did question on the development side, and they did this in Human Revolution too, is the switch between in-game cutscenes and these pre-rendered ones. It's not like I dislike either, but I never understood why they switch over. Regardless, we asked Miller to look up Viktor Marchenko in the database and continue on Jensening our way into Ark. Yeah, I'm going to use that verb every time. I know I sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but these interior designs might be some of the best I've ever witnessed. I love that they show where they get the water, how dilapidated the system is. Then being able to see this large cargo transportation area was mind-blowing. I also thought it was great game design that they just give you the small indicator to go up, and it's up to you, the player, to find that route. No check marks, no yellow ladders, just player intuition. Once we get up to the Ark living quarters, we get a brief cutscene of Tabor's brother snitching about us to the guards. Not cool, dude. Now this was the turning point in the game when it came to gameplay. Prague was cool and the bank interior plus the sewers were interesting, but nothing was massive. What we get here is a much more open level design, which makes navigating the area more engaging, I would argue. You really have to use all your wits dealing with the Ark henchmen, and having the stealth augment worked wonders. I did try to be non-violent, so upgrading our battery so we could stealth and knock people out was paramount. I do admit there were some times that violence did happen, but I really tried to think about the circumstances we were playing with. My thought was that if society already assumed that Augs were inherently violent, that going through the game killing cops and others would affect the story. I didn't want to give the bigots fuel to fan the flames. Going back to the gameplay side, I felt like a mouse in a maze. I had never played up to this point. I think I stopped my first run through in 2016 because of my mother's passing and just never went back to it. So trying to sneak through corridors with numerous enemies, security cameras, the tension was real, and it was awesome. This part was also the longest gameplay sequence without a cutscene or dialogue option, which was felt. I was waiting to get into some room and be able to converse with one of the guards, but it really was visceral not having a break. You were alone, and everyone was shoot on sight. After about an hour of sneaking and some combat, whoopsies, we make it to Rutger's office and meet the face of Ark.
As the customary final request of the condemned man, please, do not kill any more of my people on your way out. Their only crime against you is their loyalty to me.
You don't seem surprised to see me.
I'm not. After the train station attacks, I knew it was only a matter of time before they sent someone. Please, sit.
This isn't a social call, Rutger. I'm here to take you in.
Our mandate is to fight for the rights of the augmented. Communicate our message, offer assistance. The Ark is a non-violent organization.
I don't know how you play either game without the social augment. Maybe you do and get wild alternatives, but we get to question Rutger with this gorgeous backdrop. Rutger says Ark is non-violent, but after our conversation with Victor, the man in the ivory tower might not know everything about what's going on. Jensen argues with Rutger that by coming with him peacefully that there wouldn't be more bloodshed to tarnish Ark's already faltering reputation. There are a lot of great lines during this debate, and the way the game formulates these moments gives them more gravitas than most interactions in other RPGs.
I've had faith in humanity, and humanity betrayed me.
Humanity didn't betray you. They got scared and they panicked. You need to give them more time to settle down.
How long am I expected to wait? When every day that passes brings us closer to extinction.
I'm beset by the bombings on one side, and ARC internal politics on the other. It may be that the two are connected.
Rucker wants us to delay the arrest, but Jensen again has these great retorts that bolster his position.
Things are bad everywhere. And the longer it drags on, the worse they'll get. The best thing for you and the cause is to show strong leadership by coming in now, proudly and willingly, to help fix things.
Rucker does admit that he thinks there's a power struggle looming within ARC about how to conduct operations, and a pushback of the anti-violence stance he made, since most AUGs on the streets below Rucker are getting assaulted and imprisoned every day. This has caused Rucker to start thinking that someone within ARC actually perpetrated the bombings behind his back, and gives Jensen the keycard for his security vault. And just as I got the achievement for winning the debate and feeling happy about doing it diplomatically, say it with me, something bad happens.
Rucker? Chicane, Rucker is dead.
Come again.
I'll fill you in when I see you, which is where exactly?
There's some greenhouses near your position. Below them is a clearing. That's where I'll be. Chicane out.
Holy shit, that was brutal. I assumed he got poisoned by the Chekhov's glass they kept cutting to, but that still didn't make it any less disturbing. Jensen has to make his way to the helicopter, and I thought it was a great touch that this area was the greenhouses and production of food. It's these small environmental additions that make the game world feel truly immersive. Jensen makes his certified badass escape, and Victor shows up again looking like a supervillain. I told you we'd ramp up to 100. Back in Prague, Miller is awaiting our return and is not happy. We do get to disclose what Rucker said to us, how he believes someone was betraying his vision and the person was probably the one who poisoned him. Yet, even though I disclosed what he said to us, I thought it was interesting we get the option to withhold the pocket secretary from Miller, and eventually give it to Vega. Even though I didn't believe Miller was behind everything, he still took orders from Manderley, who I didn't trust at all, and wanted Vega to help out, and maybe Janus too. Miller does mention that Viktor Marchenko's rap sheet is squeaky clean, which I call bullshit on, but there are bigger problems at hand. Most notably, the biggest figure on the augmented side is now dead, and Golem City is going to turn into a war zone. Miller then asks for a ride to meet with state police, and Smiley should have cracked the DSD evidence we gave him from before. Vega calls and talks about the impact Rucker dying will have, but also the fact that Miller is traveling. It gives us an opportunity to search his apartment. We also get a call from David Seraph, who tells us that Orlov, yeah, the doctor from the beginning whose schematics ended up in our body, is in Prague. The rabbit hole keeps expanding.
6 months ago, he got an augmented expert's visa and has been coming and going periodically ever since. Border Control locked him in this morning.
I arrived in Prague 6 months ago.
I decided to go to Smiley first since I was interested in actually solving a case for once, and he had some key information. Turns out the bomb that was used in the train station had a mechanical timer, a Stanik, which is a specific watch from a specific watchmaker within Prague. So now we have 3 apartments we need Jensen to Jensen his way into. I'm not opposed to how they did this. The pacing within Golem City was awesome, and the detective work had this air of a 2D point-and-click adventure game, which I adore. But something very soon disturbs the flow of the game, and we'll get there. Immediately getting out of our HQ, there's some type of explosion and the police are scattering. At the time I thought this was a perfect distraction to get into the apartments we needed, and Miller and Orlov apparently stay within a block of each other, like 10 yards away from Interpol. So I went to Orlov's flat first. Fortunately, we're a little too late to question the guy, because he is a bullet to the head. Jensen is unsure if it's actually the doctor, but says that one of the medical team in the Alaska facility looked very familiar. The body also had a keycard for Taeyong Medical's vault, which, remembering Taeyong took over Seraph Industries and was part of the AUG incident, I was getting excited to see where this was going. Seraph again aids Jensen in the search for more answers after he tells him that the Alaskan facility was run by WHO, or the World Health Organization, and that Orlov's name was different when working there, if they were the same people. We also get our 0451 reference, so I guess that's going for us.
Christ, Adam, what exactly happened to you in that clinic?
I don't know. I was in the coma ward. It was run by the World Health Organization. Facility 451.
On Orlov's computer, we find an email talking about his work with human DNA and nanotechnology, and then in the safe, Jensen's confidential medical report. So I'm assuming this guy was also using Adam for his ability to merge with augmentations. So that's apartment 1, off to apartment 2, Miller's. We find out more about our commander, how he is an ex-SAS operative, and more on the condition of his daughter. I love the fact that the player has to search for these things and actually take the time to read the interactions, rather than getting some pop-up abbreviating everything. It seems like Miller's daughter has some sort of chronic illness that an augmentation can cure, but he's concerned about her being marked as other and is asking for guidance through augmented lawyers, as well as arguing with his wife or ex-wife trying to delay the surgery. This really resonated with me on a narrative level and gives Miller's character a lot more depth. He's the head of the secretive Interpol bureau aimed at augmented terrorists and is inundated every day with anti-AUG sentiment on both a professional and social level. He wants to protect his daughter, but is caught between a rock and a hard place. This is the nuance and world building that Deus Ex excels at, and it's a goddamn shame we're not getting another one anytime soon. And it's not the last time I'm going to say that either. We gain access to Miller's second computer and find even more information. Miller has some contacts in North America, and I gathered he asked them for more information about the VersaLife so-called break-in. His contact says they can't find anything on it and doesn't want to continue with these offline requests, meaning Miller is trying to hide from Manderley what he's talking about, or he would have used the correct channels. But then in the follow-up email, Miller's contact does find a log about an incident, but notes the logs were changed so it was harder to find. After leaving Miller's apartment, we meet back up with Vega, who has more information on VersaLife. Some research assistant was found dead, poisoned maybe by the substance that was used on Rutger. I also think that the facility is the same one Seraph said Megan Reed, our ex, was now working at, and the plot thickens even more.
I can't stand VersaLife, Adam. Back when I was flying for Bell Tower in Panama, I stumbled into deep shit with them. They're the reason I've got a target on my back. They told my bosses to kill me.
If they're involved in this, we'll get them. We just need to know what this is.
Jensen gives Rutger's evidence to Vega, who will help track the IP, and then we get our last bit of information on VersaLife.
Listen, about VersaLife. The information we found on Norstat was buried deep. No police report, no autopsy, just a footnote on an insurance claim calling it an industrial accident.
She was working with dangerous pathogens, wasn't she?
Supposedly. Janus thinks there's more to it. He's the one who found the report. Said it was off.
Off how?
Lots of blank spaces and missing details. Didn't really go into it.
We get the crazy idea, now with Miller's keycard in hand from his apartment, to use the NSN system and play back more of the call we overheard while using the Whisper chip. It's crazy because we actually have to sit in the frickin' chair that's situated in Miller's office, and that feeling of cheating on the test came back tenfold. What if we were caught? I don't know if Jensen could talk his way out of that. But before we plug ourselves into the Matrix, we have the third apartment to explore, the watchmaker whose watch was part of the bomb. Rummaging around Stanik's apartment, we find a concealed room and hack the computer to go through his emails. Everyone keeps a clean email folder. There's literally no spam. The emails don't hold any evidence that Ark was working with Stanik, but do mention his daughter being dangerous because of her mental state. Then there is another email from some dude that looks like Nico Rosberg saying Stanik's daughter is involving herself with the wrong crowd, whatever the hell that means in this world. But as we get off the computer, something bad happens.
Now,
They come to me to take care of you. Business is business, my friend.
I guess Nico Rosberg works for the Dvali gang, and they want Stanek dead, so they rig some sort of gas trap to kill him. Luckily, we have ammo and the doors are breakable, so we easily escape and head to the bar his last email said he would be at. Coming back to Prague during the nighttime was a great visual change, and shows off the lighting effects and level aesthetics beautifully. I was really astonished by the red light district. No, not for those reasons, but for the vibrancy it had. We confront Stanek in the bar's basement, who goes, "I don't know anything about the bombing." But then we hit him with his watch was used and there was a bomb-making material in his frickin' apartment. Quickly, Jensen figures out that it was Stanek's daughter who was making the devices, and even though Mr. Stanek wants to take the fall, we're not gonna let him, no matter how valiant sacrificing himself for his daughter is or isn't. Stanek also divulges that he and one of the Dvali leaders made some sort of deal that went south, and that's why there was the gas trap. So our lead is the daughter, and walking around town we discover where that explosion occurred. It was at Stanek's shop. I kind of felt bad for the dude. First his daughter goes all Unabomber, then his only store gets blown up presumably by his daughter trying to cover her tracks. Next on the checklist is using the NSN machine, and hopefully because it's nighttime there won't be a lot of people around. In classical Jensen fashion, before we hook into the Matrix, we hack Miller's third computer and read through Manderley's email giving the redacted report on VersaLife. But I didn't find anything damning. We then enter the NSN room, and oh boy, was I questioning why this was part of the game. Remember how I said some things during the game made me scratch my head in disbelief? This is one of them. Not only was I questioning the pacing of the segment, but I was getting flashbacks to DIMA simulation puzzles, which I fucking hated. We do get to use this really cool remote hacking minigame that I didn't know until the very end of the game you could actually unlock through the experimental augmentation, but other than that, the only thing getting me through this portion was me wanting to know if Miller was in on it all, or was just being used by Manderley. We unlock the security nodes or whatever they are and get the juicy part. We see the interaction between Miller and Manderley we already heard, but then get this bombshell of Manderley talking to the Illuminati spokesperson who was in the beginning cinematic of Human Revolution and was present at the beginning cutscene of this game. I guess this guy is also the head of VersaLife, since Manderley says your facility, and I'm going, oh shit, since the two admit to having someone with an arc. Probably Victor, who is about to start some operation, and the words, use the orchid, is like some Maltese Falcon type code phrase. It perked my interest tenfold.
Killing Rucker. Are you sure it's a good idea? I mean, it'll certainly make things easier during Phase 2, but...
Are you doubting me, Joseph?
I'm merely concerned that the rest of the Council might not like your call. They seem less cohesive these days.
Rucker's death may upset some of them, but at this juncture, Brown is the only person we pay attention to.
They also admit to being the ones that would eventually kill Rucker. Remember, this conversation is from our first day back, and they mention something about Phase 2, which doesn't bode well. They also mention Nathaniel Brown and how he is the last person standing in their way. With all that information, Jensen wants a one-on-one talk with Janus, but as we leave the NSN, we meet another person Jensening their way into Miller's office. Why is the therapist at nighttime leaving a message on Miller's desk, let alone looking like she was also hacking into the computer? We already did that, lady. She quickly says the message was urgent, how one of their undercovers hasn't been heard from for a week, but I questioned her method on going about contacting Miller. Doesn't everyone just radio each other? Jensen does question her about why she decided to join Interpol, and interestingly enough, it was Manderley's idea to add the psych clinic to the task force. You can even press her on her relationship with Joe, but she kind of deflects again, even if she's right that we probably shouldn't be conversing in Miller's office. There is a side quest on the patient the shrink was talking to us about, but I thought meeting Janus was more important, so I skipped over it.
Well, listen, Adam, Leon was waiting on my initial batch of reports, and I'm sure Director Miller wouldn't be too pleased to find us standing in his office, so... Unless there's something else, I think this is where I'll check out.
We're told that there's a dead drop somewhere near the metro and find a pocket secretary with information on Viktor Marchenko, the bald-headed dude that I think poisoned Rucker and is the Illuminati's plaything. From the information we read, it seems like he's had a turbulent life, bouncing between Ukraine and Russia, which I'm assuming the dates follow the war that started in 2014. Things aren't adding up with Victor. It's documented he had a wife and child, but there was no record of them emigrating to the Utalek Complex last year, and I can't quite understand what else we could be informed about with this. We go to our next location to have a conversation with Janus, who we don't even know if they're a person at this point. I was thinking it might be like Eliza and another powerful AI that doesn't have constraints or something like that. And from the looks of his ever-shifting face and tonal obfuscation, I think I might be onto something.
Doesn't mean we can't arrest both of them for conspiracy to commit murder. We heard Page give the order to kill Rucker.
In a recorded conversation that you obtained illegally.
Janus confirms that the man from the cutscene is Robert Page, VersaLife owner and multi-billionaire. Why can't they just donate to libraries or something? Anyways, Jensen, I guess, needs to be reminded that the information we obtained was done very illegally and would be thrown out of court. With that scratched off the detective ticket, our next lead is back in the Palisade Bank in one of the vaults owned by VersaLife, which might have another breadcrumb to what the Orchid is and what Phase 2 might entail. Jensen also mentions Nathaniel Brown to Janus, who says the guy could earn trillions if the Human Restoration Act passes the UN. But before we can ask what the hell the HRA is, or how Brown would benefit, the line is cut and something bad happens. I'm joking, but something bad does happen.
I just spotted sentry drones headed your way.
What? How? I wasn't followed.
Maybe somebody at PRE detected Janus hack into the electrical grid. I don't know. Just get out of there.
I just find it comical at this point that we're always cut off mid-sentence. Oh wait, like the series. Jensen sneaks past a lot of drones. Somehow the site was compromised, which doesn't bode too well for our next adventures. Leaving the sewers, we get a call from Stanek about his daughter being taken hostage by the Dvali and that they're going to execute her if we didn't stop them. Then we get a call from Vega telling us that VersaLife is closing their account at the bank, and this would be the only time we get a chance to infiltrate the vault and secure whatever is inside. This isn't as jarring as the gas chamber in the first game, which really made me question my choice. I did appreciate how people pointed out I could save both the scientist and the hundreds of innocents, but for this flip of the coin, I didn't feel any necessity to save Stanek's daughter, when the vault might contain information to take down VersaLife or at least stop the Phase 2 of their plan, so we go to the bank. This mission was one of the good ones, and they get even better from here. Janus has stashed a blank keycard in the garage across from the bank, and we'll need to hack into the bank systems in order to replicate an ID that can gain us access to the vault. I realized once Vega said we'd find the DNA for the card in the offices on the 3rd floor that we had already been here during the Samizdat mission, which made it a little bit easier navigating the top floors. We get the ID card fully verified and head down to the vault, where Vega explains we'll lose communication, and bam, we're on our own. Again, sneaking around not knowing the patrols or how much manpower there is was tension building. Plus with the narrative building up, these were some of my favorite moments in the game. After overriding some systems and having the sweet augmented perk to turn turrets against the guards, Jensen reaches the vault and oh boy does this look frickin' incredible. Janus hacks into the vault information system, and of course there's an audio log from our crazy ex, Megan Reed.
Wait, that's an audio file. Can I hear it?
Hello?
Bob, it's Megan. Those orchid samples you told my new assistant to send to Switzerland?
I asked him not to bother you with that.
It's okay. I told him he could. But it's just, I've never heard of this G.A.R.M facility before.
A recent acquisition. I'll have to take you there someday.
That's not necessary. Listen, the changes we make to the orchid's Cas enzymes, they're incredibly dangerous. Until we perfect the replacement-based fragment, G.A.R.M's researchers must keep a neutralizing enzyme on hand.
I've read your reports, Megan. I know all about the failures of the CRISPR molecule. I'm even keeping a sample of the neutralizer inside a secure vault in case your research gets corrupted.
You are?
Trust me, you have nothing to worry about.
Thank you. I just wanted to be sure this time.
So Megan, after swindling our DNA to try to make the perfect Aug human, now works for another Illuminati head and is either naive enough to think her research into a deadly DNA chemical compound will be protected by VersaLife, or she is complicit in the making of something that could kill a lot of people. How the hell were these two a couple? Megan also mentions a facility called G.A.R.M, which Janus tells us is an ex-Bell Tower research lab that VersaLife took over. Even though Bell Tower was disbanded, it seems like the other players just bought it out and rebranded it under their own corporate umbrellas. Before exiting the vault, I wasn't going to go anywhere without that antidote for the orchid, and if anyone could tell me what happens if you do leave without it, thank you. So we escape the bank, or I guess run away from the cops, and call up Miller, who again is pissed that we're actually not going to solve the bombing case. I guess I spoke too soon earlier. Jensen meets up with Miller and tells him that the Dubai job was a setup and that the G.A.R.M facility is operational despite Bell Tower's bankruptcy. Jensen is sounding crazier by the second, but somehow Miller agrees for him to surveil the G.A.R.M facility, even though we didn't even get the truth behind the bombing. But again, I think there are bigger fish to fry. Chicane says that he needs to top off with fuel, and that gives us one last side quest to do, since after the bank, we did receive a call from a neighbor saying that someone was murdered outside our apartment complex, and all their augs were ripped out. Something about this made me very intrigued, and I was glad I started the quest, since I think it ties in nicely with Mankind Divided's divergent theme of detective noir. Jensen enters the crime scene and meets Detective Carl Montag, who allows us to check around for any clues on who could have committed such a heinous crime. I think what caught my attention was, for the whole game, we're getting inundated with society rejecting and subjecting the Aug population to less and less humanity. And a murder like this, where all the augments were ripped out, seemed to be a tipping point. We talk with our neighbor who called in the murder, who apparently doesn't talk to cops. Maybe we shouldn't mention we're Interpol. After talking with our neighbor about what she saw or didn't see, we investigate the crime scene and find some evidence. The most revealing is the choke marks on the body left a partial fingerprint. We talk to the detective again that gives us another lead, being the husband, and we pay him a visit. At first, I immediately thought the husband did it, but Jensen is a good detective, and the husband's backstory was very intriguing. We notice a Bell Tower patch on one of his jackets and confront him on his service. Then we get some of the best backstory to any minor character in the game. Mr. Gunn, yeah, that's his name, confides in Jensen that he was part of Bell Tower and that he served in New South Wales. If you remember from the first game, Australia is having some sort of civil war, and this guy saw a lot of combat, and has a lot of trauma stemming from his deployment.
Bell Tower wasn't all that big on choice. Send you where they want, make you do what they want, replace parts of you whenever and however they want.
He does agree for us to search his apartment for any evidence, and we find a note from his doctor talking about irritation in his augmented hands, the ones that Bell Tower made him get for combat, which in itself is messed up. Phantom limb syndrome is a documented trauma response from soldiers or amputees that sometimes feels like their limbs are still there, but could you imagine having hands but they're not your own? Regardless of that, Jensen does make a compelling argument that Mr. Gunn couldn't have killed his wife because the killer left that partial print on the victim's neck. And for better or worse, Mr. Gunn doesn't have fingerprints. Honestly, I'd take a non-Deus Ex game where it's just Jensen as a cop solving crimes.
They did it so you can kill better.
So I'd never get caught. Ironic, right? Being a good killer is probably what saves me here. They gave me tools they wanted me to have. That it was in their interest for me to have. But the decision to use them, that was all me. Now, if you don't mind, I'd very much like to be left alone.
Now, that's a chilling final line, but we do have the evidence to give the detective, so we go back. The case isn't over, but at least Johnny Gunn won't have the noose around his neck, and we have a secret research facility to surveil. Jensen, defying Miller's orders for like the 100th time within a week, tells Chicane that he's going to investigate the interior of the facility, and we get dropped in the middle of the Alps. Fool guys don't feel the cold. Unfortunately, they were waiting for us, and Jensen is caught in another trap.
You really must avoid taking those wrong turns. A little taste, so at the end you understand what you're interfering with.
Victor injects us with what I assume to be the orchid, and I like how one of the henchmen asks why we're not spitting up blood like Rucker did. Victor says back we aren't as meaty, which I chuckled at. He's right. We do get the trope of the villain not doing the 2 to the chest, 1 to the head, but I'll let it pass since the orchid has already been tested on other individuals with deadly results. They do just plop Jensen's corpse in some valley weirdly. I was expecting a bunch of different people to be here, but no, it's just old mechanical parts and us. I chose to contact Miller instead of Vega, even though I trusted her more. I thought Miller would be more helpful in this situation. We confirmed with him that Marchenko was the one that poisoned Rucker, and that it was the same strike team that hit us in Dubai. Sneaking through the G.A.R.M facility again was an exciting level because of how large it was, but having distinctive objects and buildings that you wanted to explore. I even started moving what looked like some Hadron Collider and got scolded by some operator, who we can tell to fuck off.
Moving the crane.
Yeah, I can see that. Why?
Because the last person to use this didn't follow proper safety precautions. You almost had a ton of ice fall on someone's head.
Shit! Is it safe now?
Yeah, should be fine.
I know what I'm doing. I don't even know what moving the object actually did. I hacked every computer I could get my grubby little hands on for more information, but sadly I didn't really find anything damning, just the fact that they were going to throw some party, I guess for the ARC affiliates, but that didn't detract Jensen going full maverick on these guards. Then seeing these tachikomas was another chef's kiss. I seriously can't believe this was made in 2016. We discovered that the party being held for the ARC henchmen that were working with Victor was actually a setup to murder them, I guess to hide the fact that Phase 2 was happening. And at this point, nothing was shocking about the lengths VersaLife and the whole collective would go to. Even though it was sort of short, I enjoyed the G.A.R.M facility a lot. We get rescued by Chicane and come back to actual pandemonium in Prague. Even though on a narrative level I understood martial law being implemented, I despised what it did for the pacing. Mankind Divided goes back and forth, from deep dialogues and discoveries, then being stopped at every metro, to long action sequences, then the NSN DIMA server or the lockdown of Prague, which makes trying to do the last side quests much more of a hassle than I thought it was worth. Before we go on the streets, Vega meets us in the puppet shop and we talk about the orchid, whether she can analyze it for more information, and that ARC is about to be set up for a major terrorist attack using said orchid. They also suspect Nathaniel Brown as being a part of the whole operation, since he has a lot to gain if the HRA is passed, and Marchenko talked about being in the same place as him, but the two also question why Victor would target Brown if he's the one leading the whole thing. Now Jensen needs to meet with Miller, who Vega still thinks is in on the whole charade, and we just book it past the police. The city lockdown means every inch of the city is restricted and the police will shoot on sight. Rather than taking 3 hours to sneakily go to each objective marker, I just ran past them and used my invisibility cloak. It didn't feel that rewarding. Entering Interpol, we again see the therapist who for some reason came to work instead of staying home when there's a frickin' martial law happening, but whatever. In Miller's office, he's on the phone with the state police arguing about his agents not being able to conduct any work since they'll be shot on sight too. Jensen confronts Miller about all the smoking guns around him, how Victor knew he was going to be at G.A.R.M, the Dubai cover-up, the whole shebang. Even though Miller rightly tells Jensen he's a cock-up, that's a funny word, he does spill that Manderley was the one that put Jensen on this exact team.
I sent you after ARC because there were viable suspects in the train station attack.
And because Manderley ordered you to do it.
Yes, he ordered me to do it, but unlike him, I will not ignore evidence to close a case. You've been nothing but an insubordinate cock-up since Manderley put you into this unit.
Manderley?
It was his signature on the transfer papers. I checked. I can't believe we're arguing over this. Not when we need to focus. Right after you contacted me, I got on the horn with Lyon. Had them send in a strike team from France. It got there about an hour after you two slipped out.
And the mercs were gone.
Did a pretty good job of trashing the place before bugging out, and left a few booby traps behind. So we have no idea where they went or what they're planning next.
I guess that assuages Jensen's thoughts on Miller being in on it. I don't remember hearing Marchenko mentioning the Dvali or finalizing a deal with them, but he said it. So we're off to the theater district. Yet, before we go there, Daria, our neighbor who called in that Aug murder, calls us again, and it sounds like she's in trouble.
Quick, he's here.
Who's here? Who is this?
It's Daria, from the crime scene. Do you remember? I'm at home. Apartment across from yours. Please, hurry. I know you wanted him.
Are you still there? Daria!
Now, even though I wanted to catch the killer, I was kind of surprised that this was happening now. You know, when there was a major terrorist attack about to happen. I know it's a video game, but Jensen's motivations to help her kind of fall short. It's not him who has any dialogue about why he wants to protect her, it's the player. It also doesn't help that the open world or the streets are now cordoned off, but I still was interested to see where the narrative went. Getting to her apartment, the detective is back and says something about it being dangerous to be on the streets. Dude, we live in this apartment complex. He does talk about some previous serial killer and how he checked with one of the major graveyards to see if that body was still there. That's going above and beyond. Jensen convinces Montag that he can investigate the apartment, and once inside, something bad has happened. Okay, I'll really stop with that. Daria's apartment is ransacked, but we also learn she likes cats. There are clues laying around the room for us to find, and I will gripe on the last clue being the shattered glasses on the ground that were impossible to find. I had to look up a guide for this quest. There is blood all around one of the vents in the apartment that leads to the outside, but Seraph also calls, and we're so close to home, we take it. Seraph extends the mystery of what happened to us after Panchaea, stating that Jensen's name doesn't come up at all in the records for that Alaskan site, and he doesn't believe the augments came from that time. Even weirder is that Seraph informs us that all of our augments he grafted onto us in the previous game had ID codes, making it very easy to identify us. But if they didn't find them, and Seraph believes that all our augments are new, which, holy Theseus' ship, are we actually Adam Jensen? Then we're told that Orlov wasn't operating in Alaska until the month we woke up from the coma, that he used an alias McFadden, but was on the other side of the world during the year Jensen can't remember. I was confused. Like, very confused, especially since Seraph says, you have to come to the conclusions on your own.
What are you trying to tell me, Seraph?
I'm sorry, Adam. There's not much more I can say. There's some conclusions you have to make for yourself. All I know is the deeper I dig, the more questions I have. Orlov might have had answers, but as soon as you found out he was in Prague, that he'd been visiting Prague periodically ever since you started working with TF-29's division there, somebody killed him. You tell me what it all means.
Like, really, are we not Adam Jensen? Are we a clone? If they had stored our DNA, we would have the same DNA. They could put memories into our head, presumably, but the augments couldn't be replicated because Seraph Industries was bankrupt and liquidated? Is that how it's going? If anyone has their own opinion on this, I'm all ears, because I am confused. Unfortunately, I fear that we'll never be able to tell Seraph what we find, because there isn't a goddamn third game. Where's my Jensen pillow? Okay, so back to the Aug killer. The vent leads out onto the roofing, then down into the sewer where we find Daria conveniently tied up. Something is very odd about this whole setup, and the way she's talking made me think of LA Noire when one of the witnesses was lying.
I don't see what the hurry is. You're safe where you are for now. I need to deal with the killer first.
A little late to back away now, isn't it? You would sidestep salvation so close to the gate? I don't think so. Admit it, all this time you ignored the facts because deep down you wanted to be saved.
Ah, she is the killer. This was an okay boss. I did try to neutralize her, but she had some sort of high-tech carapace, so tranq darts didn't work. After defeating her, we find this pocket secretary with the subject line Orlov's child. And I must have missed something here, because this has to be the same Orlov we've been talking about and the one we found dead. Maybe that's why he was coming to Prague, not for us, but for his daughter? It also sounds like Orlov gave her the carapace armor I was talking about, but at this point I'm a little thrown by all the threads in this mystery web. The detective finds us with, I guess, the body visible, not a great look for her just to be laying on the floor, and accuses Jensen of being the killer. Somehow, Jensen talks his way out of it, and I laughed about Jensen saying he's not a murderer. Yeah, we've tried to knock everyone out, but I'm pretty sure people, fell through the cracks. So with that out of the way, we're headed to the theater district in Dvali territory to figure out the connection between them and Victor. I didn't know where to get the key card for the door, so I just used the shotgun to blow it open, alerting no one. Nice. This was a visually appealing area, and one that I hadn't gone to before. From the rain to the mechs walking around, I was pretty hyped trying to traverse it all. The interiors never felt duplicated or reused. The theater is beautiful even if it's inhabited by scummy gang members. We do get to hack the security system, and with one of the last perks in that category, we can turn friendly fire on for the robots outside. That's pretty freaking cool. With that distraction, we get to the basement and overhear a conversation between Nico Rosberg and the other Dvali guy who loudly proclaim that they're targeting the Safe Harbor Convention in London, where Nathaniel Brown is going to speak. We let Vega know about the plans and she confirms that Victor and the others are targeting Brown, but again, I'm confused. Wasn't he the one that would benefit from the HRA resolution that's probably going to pass? Going back to our apartment again, we get a cool loading screen unique to the situation we're in. Martial law means no trains, so we can see Jensen casually strolling down the tracks. I thought this was neat. What I didn't think was neat was this back and forth the last 2 hours. It felt very disjointed, and even though I could have gone the straightforward route only doing the main mission, why then give the player the options to do these side quests during the lockdown? Is this just a me thing? So we run past more cops and finally make it back to the apartment where Vega says she was wrong about Brown, explaining that he was actually going to lose trillions of dollars, not gain it by the passing of the Human Restoration Act. That seems like a very big oversight on her and Janus's part. And at this point, because I hadn't found any documentation on the resolution, I looked it up. And of course it's all types of messed up. Resolution would call for the removal and downgrading of every augmentation, plus unlicensed ones too. Then every aug would need a control chip inserted. If they refuse, straight to the gulag. Now I get why the Illuminati want this thing to go through, a control chip for all these augmented people, and who wields that control? Probably them. It's a diabolical plan, but a good one from a villain's perspective. And again, Deus Ex excels at the grayness of the world. It's not like Brown is a good person either. He's going to try to exploit the Augs making the city and reap the dividends off their work for his investors. And, it's a big and, the other side of the coin is the Illuminati trying to destroy this idea and take control of every Aug for their own power. We get another bombshell that the Orchid isn't designed to be a bioweapon. In fact, it's a genome editor that helps augmented people merge with their Augs, just like Jensen's body doesn't reject his augments. I wonder where they got that idea from. However, the Orchid in its unfinished form is deadly to anyone that comes into contact with it, just like the researcher at VersaLife who died. With the target identified, the weapon known, and Miller briefed, we're on our way to jolly old London.
Miller, it's Jensen. Is McCready still working on that plan for London? Because there's another variable to consider.
You can brief him yourself at TF-29's airfield. We're mobilizing.
Copy that. How do I get there?
Damn curfew's still in effect. So if you can get to Chicane's place, he'll fly you to it. Miller out.
This starts one of the best levels in the games, and one that will stick with me for a while. T-29 has alerted Brown and his entourage about the threat, and even though they're taking precautions, they won't cancel the event.
I don't have to tell you what's happening, you know the drill. There are people down there, radical, augmented people, who've been sidelined by this world, and who think the only way to stop the oppression is by tearing down everything in their way. Their grievances may be just, maybe they should be heard, but never on these terms. The world may be going to shit, but we're here to stand against the chaos. Every one of the guests down there are counting on us to keep them safe. Let's make sure we do.
This speech by Miller hit home and made me respect his character a lot more. I know some people nowadays think peaceful protests don't work, but I personally believe violence begets violence. Where does the vendetta end if each side is just blowing each other up? Miller and Jensen touch down on the roof and meet Brown, who explains that he has gone through all the steps trying to make this place safe, but also does not want to cancel the event since he apparently gets extremist threats all the time, which I understand that logic. What would make this different than any other time? We get our marching orders to talk with the head of security while Miller and Brown go to the conference room. The backdrop of London was staggering. I love seeing Tower Bridge lit up in the nighttime as well as the Eye, but there was work to be done. Jensen gets to the security desk, and the second it zoomed in for the dialogue, I noticed this gigantic blood smear on the wall to the left of the guy, so when there was an option to just straight up attack these imposters, I went for it.
Now how about you back away real slow and show me your hands?
When we killed you in Switzerland, you should have stayed dead, Interpol! The site is compromised! Take him down!
Probably wasn't the smartest move, but we're not screwing around. So Victor and his crew paid or took over the PMC group Brown hired for the extra security, and we need to unlock the building-wide system to get MacCready and friends into the site. I don't know how you would stealth this, maybe it had something to do with me attacking the fake guard, but there was a lot of bloodshed in this room, and I wasn't taking any prisoners. Jensen activates the override switch, and we get to see Brown starting his idealistic speech. Then we get the security camera footage of the terrorists disguising themselves as catering and using the back hallways to move around. Miller expressly tells Jensen that we have to neutralize every disguised extremist without alerting the guests in the reception hall. Having the stipulation about how to conduct ourselves in this mission made it my favorite. There was a reason to go ghost, not just for that sweet XP or pop-up. This was difficult, but it was for a reason, and we could load the previous save, which I did more than once. Methodically taking out these shitheads was one of the most rewarding experiences in the game. One by one, their jugulars got punched. And with the last one neutralized, we get the keycard for the catering rooms and make our way there. Sadly, we're too late, and Jensen discovers Miller badly injured. This evoked a lot of emotion.
Jensen, Christ.
Don't try to move, Jim. Help should be on its way soon.
No. Forget about me. You've got to find Brown. Warn him. The gold mask. They poisoned the champagne.
We had the tension of the attack taking place before our eyes. Miller informs us that they've poisoned the champagne that's already en route to the meeting rooms with UN delegates from the Security Council, but I only thought about Miller's daughter, his wife, his former SAS members. Instead of asking Jensen to patch him up or stay with him until medical arrives, he knows that if Jensen doesn't stop this, the whole world will go to shit. It's valiant, it's moving. He's a great character. Victor contacts Jensen and gives us the spiel about not interfering with his grand plans and having to adapt to the situation, which really means Victor has put bombs in 3 residential towers across from the event. He gives Jensen a choice: save Brown and the Security Council delegates, or face him and hopefully he doesn't blow up the buildings while we're engaged in combat.
We can avoid another unnecessary tragedy, brother. Provided you don't take too long to reach me.
MacCready, the bombs.
I heard. I don't know if I'll find him in time, but I'm already on it. Fucking hell!
This was such a great and heavy choice for the game, and even though you can pause to think about the ramifications of Jensen's choice, I couldn't put it down and thought about the bigger picture, just like in the Bell Tower research facility in the previous game. On one hand, if Victor blows up the towers, ARC will be held responsible, and an all-out war between humans and Augs would erupt. Yet on the other hand, if every Security Council delegate is poisoned, that seemed to me to be the even worse conclusion. We just talked about the grayness of the world. It shows up everywhere in the game, not just in the choices by the player, but the fabric of the society. It's genius. I chose to save the delegates, and we sneak all the way past armed sentries, fully augmented super soldiers, and make it to Brown, who's kind of an asshole, saying he's wasted good champagne. Should have used Prosecco.
But I had it replaced. It's a cuvée de prestige.
Now, I thought Victor would explode the towers right after we save Brown, but he radios us saying that he's still waiting for Jensen, and we don't have a lot of time. So maybe there was a glimmer of hope, and we rush to the boss fight. Victor has some badass lines, but the newer Deus Ex games can't get boss battles right in my opinion. I went for a more stealthy build, and the only gun I had was the pistol, since I used all my special revolver ammo and the trank gun didn't do shit to Victor. This battle was hard. My only option was to cloak upstairs and hack the security system, hoping to God that there was either a turret or robots I could put on friendly fire. But Victor had these drones, which I'm assuming they rewired during that scene in the G.A.R.M complex. These little gremlins spotted me like 3 times and stopped me hacking the computer. This took a while. I wouldn't call it frustrating, more like trying to solve a difficult puzzle, but I was a little bummed we couldn't use diplomacy or a mix of that and stealth. Yet there were robots, I found some regular revolver ammo in one of the offices, and used grenades that were sitting in my inventory from the beginning of the game. Side note, you could also leave the boss arena, which I kind of chuckled at that it was an option. It also had a unique line of dialogue by Victor calling us a coward.
You are a coward, Adam Jensen. Come back, face me. Let us finish this.
But by the 4th try, Jensen defeats Victor and we've saved the day, but not necessarily the world.
McCready, it's over.
Even though the bombs didn't go off and no one was poisoned, Picus News is still blaming ARC for planting the explosives. But at least Brown is using his status to try to calm society and calls out the Human Restoration Act as a blight on every person, which I agree with. Vega takes this more as a win since the resolution probably won't be passed now, but Jensen is still looking for answers, and is grieving Miller's death, which sucks. I hope I get a comment telling me there was the possibility to save him. I look forward to that.
We can't change the past. We have to keep going.
What are you thinking?
How many more plans do they have in motion? How many more soldiers like Marchenko are waiting for the call?
Don't call him a soldier. He was a thug, man. Soldiers have a code of honor.
Soldiers follow orders, too. He was prepared to obey his, no matter the consequences.
Sounds like you're sorry he's dead.
He made his choice, I made mine. Regardless, we want the men behind him. Behind the Human Restoration Act. The ones still out there in the shadows. It's time for me to start pulling them into the light.
Well, now we got names. Manderley and Page. The collective won't stop until we bring these guys down.
Yeah? Well, there's one more name I want to put a face to. Janus.
With Jensen's final monologue, my adrenaline was pumping. Nothing will get better if the Illuminati leaders are still orchestrating their plans, and they have the manpower and influence to still do so. Jensen saying he wants to bring them into the light is purely badass, and I was so hyped for the 3rd iteration of him and Vega going after Manderley, going after Page and the rest of these bastards, also meeting Janus. But then it hit me, the narrative was cut off mid-sentence. We might never get the conclusions about what happened to Adam after his rescue from Panchaea, where his augments came from, or if Jensen is even Jensen. Plus the slew of other side things or world-building elements that are now dormant. It just sucks. All these thoughts and more were swirling through my head as the credits played, and listening to the music I was like, is this Periphery? Yeah, the lead guitarist made the final track. I love that band. But it also made me stay for something even more infuriating and kinda mind-blowing. There is an extra credit scene. Are you fucking kidding me?
There are always adjustments that will occur in the field. You should know that.
Adjustments? Those were not mere adjustments.
Interpol was more capable than we anticipated. They have a new augmented agent by the name of...
Adam Jensen.
Who we believe may have had external help. Possibly by the Juggernaut Collective, or even Janus directly.
We're looking into it, but we...
All that is speculation at this point. Let's find out more and reconvene later this week. Thank you, everyone. That'll be all.
It's your own fault.
I'm aware of that, Doctor.
Elizabeth sends her regards.
It's the goddamn shrink. She's a mole.
Report.
Overall, the subject seems quite well adjusted despite the massive traumas he's experienced, and his memories are still consistent with the program. He is remarkably stable.
Excellent. How close is he to contact with Janus?
Very.
It's only a matter of time.
This was my real reaction to seeing this played out.
Are you fucking... What? They haven't made the next game yet? Are you kidding? What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh my god, what the fuck?
Yeah, so the line about Jensen's memories makes me think they literally copied him, and either he's dead or locked up in some black site, but we'll never know. We might never know. Does this fact make Mankind Divided a bad game? Absolutely not. I had so much fun exploring its world, the stories it told, and the gameplay that holds up extremely well. And, that's the power of and. They need to continue this goddamn series. Well, I guess I can't freeze myself for 20 years, but we can go into the future. The far future. I'll see you then. And hope you're doing well.
The Max might have copper wiring to reroute your fear of pain, but I've got nerves of steel.